We begin our service today with these words from Mary Oliver's poem at Blackwater Pond. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones like your whole life depends on it, and when the time comes, to let it go. To let it go. I'm Reverend Meredith Barber, and I'd like to welcome you to the Unitarian Church of Baton Rouge. We're gathered here today to celebrate the life and mourn the death of Tom Muchow. Tom was a husband, father, stepfather, grandfather, a friend. He was a scientist, a pack rat, as his family very lovingly called him, and a curious, confident person. Tom was loving in so many different ways. He saved things thinking that they would be of use to others. Those who knew him well describe him as having a servant's heart and being a doer. His deep desire was to be helpful to other people in any way that he could. He was always giving people things, giving of his heart, his time, his energy. Tom's stepkids remember all the times he helped them move, helped when their cars broke down. Tom never tried to replace Marla and Melanie and Clay's dad. Instead, he was there for them. He was just Tom. And in that way, he did become kind of a third parent to them. They describe him as a steady, helpful, loving, kind presence in their lives. Marla described him as the closest to enlightened I've ever seen another human being. And Clay remembers seeing Tom tear up when they were fishing and he accidentally called Tom Dad. Tom and Diane's courtship started slow. Diane, recently divorced with young kids, was afraid and not looking for another serious relationship. And she made that really clear to Tom from the beginning. But Tom fell hard for Diane, despite her protest, once sending her a dozen long-stemmed roses with the note, "I don't love you, and I don't miss you." Diane fell for Tom's kindness, his sense of humor, his intelligence. Throughout their life together, where Diane might have been anxious, Tom was reassuring. He was an uplifting and can-do person that is already very missed. In the Unitarian Universalist tradition, which Tom came to know through Marla, we don't make a lot of promises about what comes after this life. We admit and try to be comfortable with the fact that we don't know what happens after you die. But what we do promise is that each life deserves to be celebrated, that every person deserves that dignity and love and care. We promise that we will try to tell someone's story the best way we know how. And so today I invite you to imagine life as a diamond. And as the diamond turns, we can see different facets of the stone that is Tom's life, told by those who knew him best. We won't be able to tell his whole story, not in its fullness and entirety. We won't even try to do that because a life is so much more complex than can be covered in our time together. So what we'll do instead is hear and appreciate the snapshots, the insights into parts of his life through the eyes of those who knew him. It's okay today to let the tears flow and to acknowledge the enormity of our loss. It's okay to laugh when something's funny. I think Tom would want us to do that. We're going to let him come alive again in this space through our memories, to let him be here among us. And so let us begin our service of celebration and remembrance today with a ritual we've used in this church for generations. I invite Marla, as a representative of all of Tom's family, to come forward and to light our chalice. we say together these words that are traditional in our church. With hope to make this a better world, we light this flame. Its light is a symbol of the power of love. It's okay, remember we laugh. We laugh when things are funny. The Spirit is among us. Tom's family asked for me to share this reading by Thich Nhat Hanh. It's called Limitless Life. Tom was very inspired by the writings of Thich Nhat Hanh. I see that this body, made of the 4 elements, is not really me, and I am not limited by this body. I am the whole river of life, of blood and spiritual ancestors that has been continuously flowing for thousands of years and flows on for thousands of years into the future. I am one with my ancestors and my descendants. I am life that is manifest in countless different forms. I am one with all species, whether they are peaceful and joyful or suffering and afraid. I am present everywhere in this world. I have been present in the past and will be there in the future. The disintegration of this body does not touch me. Just as when the petals of the plum blossom fall, it does not mean the end of the plum tree. I see that I am like a wave on the surface of the ocean. I see myself in all the other waves, and all the other waves in myself. The manifestation or the disappearance of the wave does not lessen the presence of the ocean. At this time, we'll begin with the sharing of memories of Tom. I'd like to invite Tom's son, Tommy, to begin.
Hello, everybody. I'm the Thomas the Third. Dad was a lot better at this than I am. Where's that highlighter I was looking for? Sorry. The fun times I had with my dad, I always cherish. This is hard. I don't know if I can do this. I wasn't ready for this part. He took my brother Chuck and I to many movies when we were kids. He had taken me fishing to various places. It's inspired me. His generous, giving, and kind nature. He was a kid at heart to the end. I'll surely miss the hangouts with Dad, traveling to see friends and family. I even drank a couple shots with Dad towards the end of my drinking and foolishness. Back ended in '89, shooting pool and shooting guns. Just had a short Bible verse about the Lord is near to those who are a broken heart and saves such as have a contrite spirit. In Jesus' name, amen.
For those of you who don't know me, I am Melanie. I'm the second of Mom's kids and one of Tom's stepkids, though we didn't really think of him so much as a stepdad. There are no words, despite the fact that there are about 1 million words in the English language. As humans, we use the phrase, "there are no words," pretty often. And as an avid reader, writer, and English teacher, I've spent more time than most thinking about what that phrase really means. Like most of you, I've used that phrase at some of the most joyful moments in my life. The day my daughter was born, the day I married my husband, the day my son was born. There were no words that could accurately capture the absolutely overflowing love I felt. We use those words, "there are no words," whenever our language fails us. And today is no different. Our language will fail us because there are no words to capture our love for Tom. And there are no words to capture what an incredible, generous man he was. Unlike many of you, I was lucky enough to have 2 dads. When we lost my father 4 years ago, I had no words to convey just how big a hole in my heart he left behind. And the same thing holds true today, but there are certain things I can say to leave you with some small sense of what Tom meant to us and what I know he wanted to leave behind. Tom was the most generous man I have ever known. This is not an exaggeration. I can't begin to count the number of times someone would mention in passing some household task they needed to get a tool for, and Tom would disappear into his study or into the backyard shed for a few minutes before coming back, tool in hand, to give it to them. Not loan it, give it. You had to fight him to let you give the tool back when you were done. In his younger days, if you were having car trouble, Tom was your guy. Not only did he have both the tools and the knowledge you'd need to fix the problem, he'd be on his back in the dirt right alongside you, genuinely happy to work on it. The man could probably take apart and rebuild a riding lawnmower with his eyes closed. We would know, given how often he advised us about ours. And I can't even begin to calculate the miles that man racked up over the years of driving 100 miles a day from Bogalusa to Stennis Space Center because he'd fallen in love with a woman whose family tied her to that town. Or the later years when he'd drop everything to pop Mom in the car and drive from Denham Springs to Bogalusa anytime one of my kids were sick, just to save me from taking another day off work. He truly had a servant's heart, a deep desire to love and help others by putting their needs before his own, without any expectation of recognition or reward. But what made Tom so special was that he combined such generosity of spirit with a worldview built on gratitude for pretty much everything. He regularly expressed how grateful he was for his family, his friends and neighbors, his life, and the most ordinary of days. And those 2 qualities of generosity and gratitude were my inheritance. Tom, more than anyone else I've known, taught me the value of not just helping others, but finding joy in it. Tom, more than anyone else I've known, modeled for me the value of gratitude for the ordinary. A pretty sunset, a meal with family, the absolute gift of a quiet day sitting across the living room from the person you love most. And he didn't just think these thoughts of gratitude, he shared them out loud every chance he got. And I know that is what he would want each of us to carry away today, a deep and abiding desire to help those around us in any way we can, and a deep appreciation for this life we have been gifted. If you want to celebrate Tom's life, throw compliments and kind words around like confetti, because God knows Tom did. Get so caught up in how grateful you are for your life and your loved ones that you just can't hold back the tears, much less the words, because God knows Tom did. There are no words to convey how much we loved him or the sorrow we feel at his loss, but there are countless chances for us to live out his legacy, and I know that's what he would hope for each of you.
I'd like to invite Clay for our next remembrance, and Marla, if you want to come on up.
I'm Clay. I'm Marla and Melanie's younger brother, and I'm Tom's youngest of children. I was 7 years old when Tom entered my life. I didn't know what to think of him at the time, but I had plenty of other things to think about. I remember one of the things I had to think about back then was taking baths. I hadn't quite figured out the shower thing. I have a scar on the back of my head. It proves I didn't quite have the hang of the bath thing either, because I fell off the side of it one day trying to dance. Something about that fall must have made me afraid to really commit to a bath, because the earliest thing I remember Tom teaching me how to do was to wash my hair while taking a shower instead of a bath. And it's something that everyone agreed was a much needed lesson. Another thing I had to think about at that age was computers. Tom kept one in his bedroom, which was also Mom's bedroom, and oddly was also our living room. And that was not because of a scarcity of rooms. We had a den, but that den was reserved for Christmas Day and the occasional wedding, and nothing else. But Tom made sure there was a computer there for me, since that's all I could think about. And it was there that Tom helped me load code from cassette tapes. Yes, audio cassette tapes onto that computer. It was on the Bogachita River that Tom taught me how to fish. It was in the country where Tom taught me how to shoot guns. It was at roadies where Tom taught me how to shoot pool. And it was in the driveway where he taught me to change a car's oil, or power steering belt, or brake pads, spark plugs, alternator, AC compressor, water pump. Before I was ever born, Tom was busy teaching me a love for science. Right now, on the surface of the moon, there are 6 plaques, one left behind by each of the 6 Apollo lunar landers, lunar modules that landed on the moon. On each of these plaques are the names of each astronaut that made the trip and the president, Richard Nixon. Nobody else was supposed to have their name left on the moon. And if you think it's unfair that Richard Nixon's name gets to be up there instead of those who helped make that mission such a success, I have some good news for you. The crew who worked on the Apollo 11 lunar module, a crew that included Tom, all left their names written inside of one of the panels of the lunar module. All spacecraft leave pieces behind when they leave to take advantage of the extra thrust. And Tom and his wife Elizabeth and dozens of others made sure to write their names secretly on the inside of a panel that would be shed on the moon when it took off. Before I was ever born, Tom was teaching us that together we can accomplish great things, and that history will find a way to remember you for it. At home, Tom taught me that everything can be fixed, if not with a toolbox, then with love and acceptance. He taught me important things, like how to be a man. He taught me that being a man has nothing to do with control and everything to do with love. He taught me that in the prime of your life, what you believe it means to be a man can be flipped on its head. And you don't have to be any less of a man afterward. After all, if like Tom and Michael, his son, if you've ever been to New Orleans on Labor Day weekend, you'll know you'll never find a more manly time in that city. Tom loved to joke that he who died with the most toys wins. Yet for each time he used one of his toys for himself, he used it dozens times more to help his friends and family. He taught me that being a man comes with many advantages and that those advantages are worth nothing if they aren't shared. Tom was without a doubt the greatest teacher I've ever known. Throughout these last 40 years, he taught me how to live. He helped me through my childhood, through my teens. He showed me how to be an adult. And if he were able to tell us now how well he did, he'd compliment us both by saying he did a damn good job. He was with me from childhood until I got to the age he was when he started teaching me. Today, I am as old as he was when he came into my life 40 years ago. But just because he's gone, don't think that my greatest teacher has left me without guidance. As much as I'd love to have Tom with me here now to show me how to be a man in his 40s, later how to be a man in his 50s and beyond, Tom has already taught me. I didn't know it at the time, but when I was 7 years old, Tom began teaching me how to be a man in his 40s. If there was anything I needed to know, he made sure that I learned it, and he wouldn't leave until he was certain I could do it on my own. So thank you, Dad, for sharing your tender, beautiful, loving life with me. Thank you for teaching me how to live until I was in my 40s. And thank you for showing me how to live from my 40s until the end. The moon was supposed to be marked forever only with the names of heroes like Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong, but your name deserves to be up there next to theirs, and it is up there forever right now. And my life was supposed to be marked forever only with the names of my parents, Wayne and Diane, but your name has been next to theirs and always will be for as long as I am a man. Thank you.
I'm Marla. I'm the eldest of the Louisiana crew, Tom's stepdaughter. I'm going to go off script for just a moment to say that there were musings in the past among Tom and others that he knew that maybe when you die, heaven was like Hawaii. This permanent vacation with sunshine and perfect weather. So if you look around the room and see some leis, or if you see in the slideshow a picture of Tom at his son Michael's memorial wearing a lei, it's because maybe there's sunshine forever in Hawaii. Okay, now back to my script. I was barely a teenager, just starting to think about dating when my mom started dating. And that's a very odd dynamic for sure. But I'm lucky to have a mom that truly knows how to pick amazing partners. She gifted me with two amazing fathers, one that I shared my DNA with, and then Tom. And I'm honored to share my mom's words with you today. So the rest of this was written by Diane. If you were playing the odds, you wouldn't have bet a dime that Tom and I would ever meet. A man born in New York and a woman from Bogalusa, Louisiana. The odds that our paths would cross must be millions to one. Fortunately, our paths did cross, and despite the odds, we spent the next 40 wonderful years together. How lucky I was. How blessed I am to have known and loved this unique individual. Tom lived for 85 years, 31,125 days, and I would give anything for one more day with him. He was a rare and precious gift, and my life will never be the same without him. But I have 40 years of memories. I had 40 years of marriage to a man who thought life was fantastic, and people were fantastic, and I was fantastic. I hope he knew just how fantastic he was too.
In a moment, we'll continue with our remembrances, and I'd like to invite Emma and McKenna to come forward. We'll hear some music in between.
I would like to start by reflecting on the type of person that Papa Tom was to me. Although if you're sitting in this room, I am positive that you already know because he was this type of person for everyone that he met. Papa Tom was the type of person, as many other people have said, to drop absolutely everything to help someone. He was the type of person who I am convinced could fix absolutely every single problem and do it all with a song and a smile. He was the type of person who you would never see in a bad mood. He was always so positive, and for him, every day was truly fantastic, no matter what was going on. He was, without question, the most joyful, loving, generous, deeply kind, overwhelmingly positive, and unendingly grateful person I have ever met, even in the face of hardship. Every time I saw him, he would always pull me aside just to tell me how much he loved me, how proud he was of me, or that whatever very questionable boyfriend I was with at the time did not deserve me. Even on very difficult days, he always had a joke to crack to make me smile or some profound words of wisdom. When I once mentioned, just in passing, that I was stopping at a gas station on the way home to air up my tires, Papa Tom disappeared out to the garage, as he tended to do, and came back 10 minutes later with a portable tire pump that seemingly appeared out of nowhere and insisted that I keep it in my car so that I would never have to pump air at a gas station alone. It has now been 3 years since I've had to pay to air up my tires. He was always doing this, disappearing for a few minutes and coming back with the exact thing to solve someone's problem or make someone's day. A book, a random jar of silver polish, a car part, a tire pump, a various tool, some wise advice, a joke to lighten a dark mood, a personally guided tutorial, or a whole ham radio. When I was 14 years old, I desperately wanted to go to a better school in Covington, despite living part-time in Mississippi. Papa Tom and Nana made it happen. Every other week, they would make the trek from Denham Springs to pick me up in Mississippi and drive me all the way to Covington. That is hours each week. That absolute selflessness has changed the entire course of my life. It gave me doors that I never could have opened on my own. And despite the early mornings and the horrendous commute, Tom never had anything but a hug and a smile. Looking back, I wish I hadn't napped through so many of those car rides. When I first sat down to write this, I was completely overwhelmed. How to begin to explain the impact of losing one of the greatest people I have known. How to find words worthy enough for a person who has shaped my life and worldview. How to express enough gratitude for all he has done for me and everyone whose lives he has touched. An impossible feat for so profound an impact. I found myself entirely unable to write because I could never write something perfect enough to match how much I loved him or how much he loved us all. My main point is this. In typical Tom fashion, even now, he is still somehow solving my problems. I have recently inherited a book of his by one of his favorite authors, Eckhart Tolle. And when I initially gave up on writing this, I decided to flip through that book instead. There are only 3 lines highlighted by Tom in an otherwise clean book. And so as I was flipping through, the very first thing I saw was the following quote, illuminated in yellow like a spotlight. Death is simply a stripping away of all that is not you. The secret of life is to die before you die, and to find that there is no death. There is no death. This is the first line he had highlighted in his book, and at that moment I realized perhaps Tolle and Tom were both right, because in a moment when I had absolutely no clue what to say, even now he still handed me the words. When I read that passage, I understood it this way. This is only the loss of form, a stripping away of our visible, worldly nature, all that is not really you. But the spirit, the essence of a person, does not end. If anyone knows the secrets of the universe or the meaning of life, I am convinced that it is Papa Tom. To have this literally highlighted for me, that the secret of life is to die before you die, reminds me of the way that Tom lived all of his life. To let go of the shallow trappings of society, the everyday stress of the world, the things that don't truly matter, so that all that remains is joy, love, and peace, generosity, presence, and contentment. To focus on what truly matters. In losing him, I've realized that so many of the mundane things that concern me daily matter arguably less in the grand scheme of things than stopping to appreciate a bird singing in the tree, a patch of clover pushing up from the concrete, the laugh of a loved one, or the opportunity, as Tom always did, to offer a smile and a helping hand. Perhaps this means we should worry a little bit less about the superficial things and to notice a bit more of what's right in front of us, and Papa Tom was an expert at that. To say that we might find that there is no death seemed like a bold claim at first, but I think I understand now what it means. Just because we cannot see him does not mean he is gone. The person we loved does not vanish. He lives on in the way we think, in the advice we hear in our heads, the songs that make us smile, the word fantastic, in a thermos of coffee, the soft rays of sunshine, in every blue-collared polo shirt I see, and in the quiet choice to be kind when it would sometimes be easier not to be. In the decision, as he always did, to live in gratitude and to make every day as fantastic as we can. Mostly, though, I know he's not gone because even now he is still helping me, as he always does. In a moment when I had no words of my own, he quite literally highlighted them for me. So maybe, as Toli suggested, this is not an ending, but a returning, a shedding of the physical, a return to the spirit, a oneness with the world. What made Tom Tom cannot be stripped away. He is here all around us so long as we pay attention. So today, as he always did, I will end in gratitude to say that I am so beyond lucky that I got to share in the same world as him.
Hello, I am Emma. I'm one of Tom's granddaughters, and nowhere in this speech am I going to say the words, "Tom was a wonderful man," because everybody here already knows that. Instead, I'm going to talk about lessons, and hopefully soon you will understand why. Throughout life, we are constantly learning lessons. No matter how young or old we are, there is always something new to learn or a new perspective to gain. We learn lessons through our parents, through peers, through aunts and cousins, through teachers and the books we read as children, and even those we read as adults. We learn through houses of worship, like the one I'm standing in now, where I have learned many. We learn through the community that surrounds us, and we learn through the acts of kindness we witness from strangers. When you spend every second taking in the world around you, it can be hard to slow down and notice those lessons as they pass by. I am lucky to already know so many of them, but let me tell you about two that stand out above the rest. These are the lessons I learned from Tom. The first lesson is about what it means to be family. Growing up, it was repeated to me time and time again that family comes first. There was no question about it, only tell me what you need, and it was done. It didn't matter who or what or how far. It was continuously demonstrated and practiced and put to the test. I watched in other families how this mantra was twisted, how my peers' parents would leave them hanging and they were forced to build their own lines of support through the friends they made along the way. I listened as they told me that they didn't talk to their grandparents or their mom, or how once their half-brothers came along, they were pushed to the side and ignored, and I cried when I heard of stepdads that used the lack of blood relation as a threat to hold over their adopted daughters. And I held every friend close when they showed up at my family's Thanksgivings to escape their own tilted family dynamics. I always knew that Tom and I were not related by blood, and somehow that rarely came up, and it surely never made a difference. To him, I was another blessing, another child in his life that needed love when he still had plenty more to give, and that made us family. He was never my step-grandfather, just my grandpa Tom, and that was the only fact that mattered to me. For 23 years of my life, he was a call and 10 minutes away. He was our summers while my parents worked to provide for us kids, and he was my ride home from school when I was too sick to stay. It's the fact that he was the only person to tell me I was still beautiful when I briefly rocked a buzz cut in 10th grade, or the fact that my therapist in high school knew that on any given week when she'd pop her head into the lobby, she would see me and Tom sitting there searching through the I Spy books spread across the coffee table. While I was screening the page for pictures, Tom was searching for any way to get me to smile again when my world felt too gray. He was the man who taught me how to shoot, first on a BB gun in the backwoods of Bogalusa, and then later in the range at Bass Pro. He was the cups of coffee and tea shared on a front porch as him and my Nana and I would talk for hours about life and everything in between. It was the sunflower seeds he gave me when I mentioned I wanted to start a garden, and he was the applause in the audience of every band concert, which I now know just how much he cherished because I found one of my programs in his desk 2 weeks ago. All of these memories and the hundreds more in between that I just don't have the time today to touch on help prove to me what it means to be family. It has never been about the percentage of blood shared, but simply about the act of being present. It was about waking up every day and choosing to be a being of love and extending your hand and your heart to those around you. It's about being there for every moment, no matter how big or small or how insignificant it may be to you, because for someone else, it will become a cherished memory. He is family because in every moment, he was there. This brings me to the second lesson I've learned, the one I know to be true, but have yet to surrender myself enough to accept, the knowledge that life is suffering and the courage to accept it. Tom practiced an idea called radical acceptance. This involves noticing the reality in your present moment, in your spirit, in your body, in your mind, and accepting it completely, without judgment and without resistance, and understanding that no matter the situation, there was always one promising fact that remained. It was another day, and you were here. And if you were here, there is still so much to come, and so much that can change. The use of this practice somewhat forces you to live in the present moment. There is no use focusing on the past, since it has already come and gone, and there is no point in stressing about the future, because who knows how much it will change by the time you meet it. You focus on what's in front of you and what matters today, and that is exactly what Tom did. Through decades of practice, I had the privilege of watching someone I love grow as close to enlightened as you can be in an earthside body. There was nothing that could take the smile off of Tom's face, and he stayed a steady beacon of light in our family. Whether it was rain or shine, you knew you could count on him to always be positive. An unwavering reminder that everything is okay and everything will be okay. Though he may no longer be with us in body, these lessons have taught me that no one ever leaves in spirit. He will continue to be here. You just might need to take a closer look. He is a bird song flowing through the open air, and he is the blue of a spring sky. He is the hope in a sunrise and the release of a sunset. He is in the waves of an ocean and the ever-changing sand on the shore. He is the cicada on a summer night and the full moon reflecting the day back to us. He is the cloud that drops rain and the garden below that cherishes the downpour. He is the sweetness in a piece of candy and the steam from every coffee cup. He is the flickering lights on a Christmas tree, and he is the laughter shared around a dining room table. And he is here, sitting between us today, and that makes it a fantastic day.
I invite you all to join me now in a time of prayer. Loving God, Spirit of life, mystery in which we live and move and have our being, draw near to us today and hear our prayers. We give thanks today for the gift that Tom's life was and still is to all those who knew him. As we remember Tom on this day, we give thanks for his loving and generous spirit and the love he gave and received during his life on this earth. All things in this life will one day pass away, except that which endures, the greatest gift, the gift of love. Tom gave the gift of abundant love, and his love lives on in the hearts and souls of all whose lives he touched with his love. When all else falls away, love remains. Love endures. Love is eternal. Love holds us and keeps us, and it is love that one day will carry us home. May it be so. Amen. I'd like to invite you to join me now in what's called the Litany of Remembrance, and we'll say this in Tom's honor. After I say a line, please join me in saying, "We remember him." In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember him. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember him. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember him. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember him. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember him. When we save something in hopes that it will be helpful to someone else, we remember him. When our home is filled with family and with laughter, we remember him. When we say, "I love you," we remember him. When we help someone move or help them with their car, we remember him. When we spend time telling someone how wonderful they are, knowing that they really need to hear that, we remember him. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember him. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember him. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember him. So long as we live, he too shall live. We remember him. Thomas Lawrence Muchow lived here on earth for 85 years. He dearly loved Diane, his children, and her children who became like his own. He loved his grandchildren and friends, always looking for ways to be helpful. And now, Tom's body has given all it can. He was cremated, and his ashes will be interred at a later time in a family ceremony. In a few minutes, once our service has concluded, please take part in a reception in Tom's honor. Share your stories and memories of him, for that's how he lives on in our hearts. The love that Tom gave to everyone here does not end. It continues on in each of us. May it be so. Amen. We go forth from this time of sorrow and celebration, knowing that we have both mourned Tom's death and also celebrated the gift of his life. As the journey of grief continues and his loss becomes more real in the coming days and months and years, let us remember that we aren't on the journey of grief alone. There are others alongside us who have walked this path before and will gladly be by our side. Let us go now in peace. Amen.